heard my views on the Keystone Pipeline? Let's hear the other side now. Michael Brune is the executive director of one of America's oldest and biggest grassroots environmental groups, the Sierra Club. He joins us from San Francisco. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Fareed. Thanks for having me on.
So tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, look, what you're saying sounds very reasonable, but we need to meet the challenge of climate change with all of the ambition and inspiration that we have to offer. What we know is that tar sands oil is dirtier than conventional oil. What we also know is that we shouldn't be spending $7 billion on a dirty and dangerous pipeline when we know that clean energy will do a better job.
If you were to look around the world, is this the worst form of energy we are using? No, it's dirty coal plants for sure. And I know you've done very good work on that, and I totally support you and the Sierra Club on it. But what I'm struck by is why are you singling out this one when, you know, at the end of the day, the greenhouse gas emissions profile is not going to be that different given that we continue to consume this stuff? Why not try to do something about that consumption issue?
Well, I appreciate the point. And, you know, the work that we're doing on coal actually relates very closely to this. Over the last 3 years, more than 140 U.S. coal plants have been announced for retirement. A lot of them will be replaced by clean energy, and it's enabling the U.S. to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions to a point that we were at 20 years ago. The tar sands, the overall tar sands development threatens to undermine all of that progress.
How? Wait, I gotta stop you. I gotta stop you. First of all, most of those coal-fired power plants, the electricity they're generating is being replaced by natural gas. It's being replaced by natural gas that has been gotten through fracking. So when you look at volumes, you're still, you know, renewables, by which you mean solar and wind, it's under 5%. Most of what we're talking about is the replacement of coal is natural gas. So it seems to me there, maybe I'm wrong, but you're making a sensible trade-off that, look, at the end of the day, with all its problems, natural gas is cleaner than coal, correct?
Sure. We'll get back to Keystone in a second, but what's happening in the electricity market right now is that solar and wind, the costs are dropping extremely fast. The cost of solar has dropped by 80% in the last 5 years. So what you're seeing now is that solar, this is nuts, but is actually starting to beat out gas in California on cost alone. Wind is starting to beat out coal in the Great Plains states on cost alone. So
because of large subsidies in both cases. The California situation
for every form of there are subsidies for every form of energy, for coal, for gas, for solar, for wind, for nukes. What we're seeing, though, in 2012, for all of the new capacity that came online, more new capacity in solar and wind came online than coal and gas and nuclear power combined. We joined together to push the Obama administration to enact the car standards announced last fall. Those car standards will save 3 million barrels of oil every day, which is almost 4 times the amount of oil that would come through this Keystone XL pipeline. So in the context of all of this, when we have the dirtiest, most carbon-intensive fuel source on the planet in Canada, we don't need this oil. We don't need to be bringing it down from Canada.
Again, do you dispute that coal is worse for climate change? I mean, you keep saying it's the dirtiest, but coal is worse. And yet we get most of our electricity.
Fuel sources.
Okay. But let me ask you those sands in California, in Canada, because look. This is Canada's, these are Canada's oil reserves. 98% of Canada's oil reserves are in Alberta. 99% of those oil reserves are in tar sands. The Canadians are going to produce this stuff. It is going to get to market. It is going to get to people who want it, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in China, whether it's in the Gulf of Mexico. It will be burned. And as I say, the market is telling you by looking at the boom in railroads, by the fact that Warren Buffett is buying this stuff, the State Department report concludes basically that these oil sands will be developed at about the same pace, looking at precisely this market data. So I would argue you're arguing against Warren Buffett, you're arguing against the State Department, and you're arguing against the history of capitalism, that when there is demand, when there's so much demand for a product, supply finds its way. I mean, look at the drug wars, as I said today, right? You keep trying to stop supply, but when you have insatiable demand, it finds its way.
Sure. Look, I'm very well aware, Fareed, of the large list of people who feel differently about this. But what is also true is that there are a lot of business people who feel that this is a boondoggle and this is a bad investment in America and it's a bad investment when it comes to our climate. But at the end of the day, Fareed, what we're saying is that we do know how to build pipelines, we do know how to build refineries and coal plants. We can't continue the same pattern of development over the next century that we've had over the last century. Last year we had record droughts and record wildfires and record storms. Our temperature increase was a full degree Fahrenheit over the previous record. All of that was in 1 year with barely more than a degree of warming. We're about to see almost 4 degrees of warming. We're about to see that. That's almost locked in. So we have to do something different. So I realize that trying to stop the tar sands development is hard to do. It's particularly hard to do when you have the U.S. government, the Canadian government, and the oil industry all aligned to try to expand development. But what we're saying is that we can't do it. What we're also proposing is that clean energy, which is cheaper, which will put more people to work, which won't threaten our air and water, won't destabilize our atmosphere, is ready to do the job. It's ready to take up a much larger proportion of our energy demand in the United States. We're ready for a clean energy transition, but that transition will be delayed, it'll be suppressed the more money we sink into these new big fossil fuel projects.
All right, we will have to leave it at that. Michael Brune, you're very kind to come on and you're very civil in your disagreement. I really appreciate that. And as I said, I admire the Sierra Club for many of the things it does. Thank